1. Apple's F1 smashes records. How it became their highest-grossing film ever. 2. Apple's F1 movie overtakes Napoleon as highest-grossing film. 3. F1 speeds to the top of the box office. 1. Apple's F1 smashes records. How it became their highest-grossing film ever. It's official. A tech company is now setting the pace in Hollywood's high-stakes theatrical race. Apple's foray into big-budget filmmaking has just hit a stunning new gear, proving that its ambitions extend far beyond the small screen. Even as the engines cool on its initial theatrical run, the Formula One-themed blockbuster, aptly titled F1, has already secured its place in the record books as Apple's most successful cinematic release of all time. The film, which is being brought to global audiences through a distribution partnership with Warner Bros. Discovery, has roared past the $293 million mark at the worldwide box office. To put that achievement in perspective, it decisively overtakes the previous record holder for the company, Ridley Scott's historical epic, Napoleon, which concluded its 2023 theatrical campaign with a respectable $221 million. This victory firmly establishes a new benchmark for the tech giant, which has been cautiously but deliberately stepping into the world of wide theatrical releases. Other major Apple-backed films have seen more modest returns, with Martin Scorsese's acclaimed Killers of the Flower Moon securing $158 million globally, while Argylle and Fly Me to the Moon brought in $96 million and $42 million, respectively. So why is this particular film such a game-changer? According to Paul Dergarabedian, a senior media analyst at Comscore, F1 is an extremely important movie for Apple and for the industry at large. He frames it as the perfect test case for a modern media strategy. It demonstrates how a streaming service can craft a spectacle that demands to be seen on the largest screen possible, while simultaneously leveraging its vast ecosystem of devices, the millions of iPhones, iPads, and Apple TVs in users' hands, to promote the film directly to its subscriber base. But here's where the strategy gets truly interesting. The success of F1 wasn't left to chance. It was heavily engineered through a landmark partnership with IMAX. Well before a single frame was shot, Apple and the film's creative team proactively secured not only the use of IMAX's cutting-edge camera technology, but also a guaranteed 3-week exclusive run in its premium theaters. This was a power move that had significant ripple effects, most notably bumping Universal's Jurassic World Rebirth from a domestic IMAX release, relegating its large-format screenings to China and, later, Japan. And this is the part most people miss. That IMAX bet paid off handsomely. A staggering $60 million of the film's global earnings, more than 20% of its total, has come directly from IMAX screens. In the domestic market of the US and Canada, the figure is even more pronounced, with IMAX screenings contributing $27.4 million, or roughly a quarter of all ticket sales. However, despite crossing the finish line with nearly $300 million in ticket sales, the film still has a long road ahead to reach profitability. With a reported production budget hovering between $200 million and $300 million, plus an estimated marketing spend of $100 million, the initial costs are immense. Furthermore, Apple must split the box office revenue with its distribution partner, Warner Bros., and the individual movie theaters. Naturally, a mega-budget movie like F1 can have a rather long road to profitability, Dergarabedian explains, noting the various revenue splits. But Apple has the resources to, and the cash reserves to take on that risk. This brings us to a fascinating and potentially controversial point. For a traditional studio, a film with such a high price tag would be a make-or-break gamble. For Apple, a company with a market capitalization north of $3 trillion, that earns the vast majority of its revenue from technology, the definition of success is fundamentally different. Entertainment is a growing division, but it isn't the core business. But here's a point that could spark some debate. Is it truly a level playing field when a tech behemoth with virtually unlimited cash can afford to absorb potential losses on a film in a way that legacy studios simply cannot? Interestingly, Apple insists it's not treating its entertainment division as a mere marketing expense for its devices. In a recent interview, Apple Services chief Eddie Q was direct. "We got into this business because we thought it would be a good business. And in order to continue to do great things, you need businesses to be profitable." This signals a long-term commitment to making Apple Entertainment a self-sustaining, profitable entity. This ambition is backed by a growing track record of cultural hits, from beloved shows like Ted Lasso and Severance, to becoming the first streaming service to win the Academy Award for Best Picture with 2021's Coda. The success of F1 is the latest, and perhaps loudest, declaration of Apple's intent to compete at the highest level. What do you think? Is Apple's deep-pocketed approach a brilliant and necessary evolution for the film industry, or does it create an unfair advantage that could squeeze out traditional players? We'd love to hear your take in the comments below. 2. Apple's F1 movie overtakes Napoleon as highest-grossing film. Some might say it took a movie about racing to finally put Apple's film division in the fast lane. And here's a statement that's hard to ignore. Apple's F1, the movie, has crossed the finish line ahead of all its previous cinematic efforts, becoming the company's highest-grossing theatrical release by a long shot. But here's where it gets controversial. Does this spell a brighter future for Apple's film ambitions, or is it little more than a temporary pit stop before more setbacks? Let's look at the numbers. In just 10 days since its debut, F1, the movie, has sped past the $293 million mark globally, overtaking not just the total run of Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which pulled in $158 million, but also Ridley Scott's Napoleon, which garnered $221 million. This puts F1 at the top of Apple's theatrical chart so far. Of course, this achievement also comes with an asterisk, since Apple's film releases have been limited and, frankly, not always winners. For instance, Fly Me to the Moon made just $42 million, and Argylle, with $96 million, was also deemed a commercial disappointment. Apple's track record in film has been a bumpy road up to now, and here's the part most people miss. Despite releasing high-budget misfires, both Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon had budgets north of $200 million, making theatrical profitability a distant hope. F1 is being hailed by insiders as a pivotal moment. This buzz is rooted in the idea that Apple had begun to question its movie business. If F1, a film tailored for mass appeal, failed to accelerate ticket sales, the company was likely to put the brakes on theatrical releases and shift its focus back to the proven success of television. However, the story doesn't end here. While F1 is now Apple's biggest box office hit, it's still far from being a financial home run. The movie cost over $250 million to make and almost another $100 million to promote, meaning it has a long road ahead before turning a profit. But these early results are undeniably encouraging, especially for a feature targeting adult audiences, and, let's be honest, Apple's massive $3 trillion valuation gives it the luxury of patience that most studios can only dream of. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, known for Top Gun: Maverick, F1 stars Brad Pitt as a retired Formula One driver who steps back into the spotlight to mentor a rookie and rescue a struggling team. The film premiered in late June with a domestic opening of $57 million and a global debut of $146 million, marking Apple's best-ever opening weekend and demonstrating clear audience enthusiasm. Positive word of mouth is expected to keep the movie in the conversation, even as it faces fierce competition from heavyweights like Jurassic World Rebirth and upcoming releases such as Superman and Fantastic Four: The First Steps. Internationally, F1 has been especially strong, earning $109.5 million outside the US and Canada. Top-performing regions include China, $22 million, the United Kingdom, $17.3 million, Mexico, $12.3 million, France, $11.5 million, and Australia, $9.8 million. The film's use of immersive IMAX cameras, following real Formula One circuits, has made it a must-see on premium screens, with IMAX alone contributing $60 million worldwide, accounting for a striking 20.4% of the film's global earnings. So what's the big takeaway? Is Apple finally getting its act together on the big screen, or is F1 just a flash in the pan? Some argue that the company's deep pockets and streaming successes, like Severance and Ted Lasso, mean it can afford to dabble in blockbusters, while skeptics wonder if it's worth the risk. What do you think? Should Apple keep betting big on cinema, or stick to what's working on the small screen? Sound off in the comments. 3. F1 speeds to the top of the box office. Weekend box office. F1 races to a promising start. The stakes are high, and the engines roar as F1, the movie hits the screen. But does it have the speed to satisfy investors and audiences alike? Brad Pitt and Jerry Bruckheimer's ambitious Formula One film has a lot riding on its performance, especially when you consider the competition from dinosaurs and superheroes. Let's dive into the numbers and see where this high-octane adventure stands. #King of the crop. F1 takes the lead with a strong opening. After a long journey from the green light in 2023, F1, the movie finally revved up at the box office this weekend. Apple, which acquired the project from Warner Brothers for a reported $130+ million in 2022, brought it to theaters, with a hefty budget estimated between $200 million and $300 million. So how did it perform? With a $55.6 million opening, the film is off to a solid start, but the real question is whether it can sustain its momentum. While a $55.6 million debut is impressive, especially in the context of racing films, it's important to put it into perspective. For a film with such a massive budget, this opening is respectable but not groundbreaking. To give you a sense of the competition, let's look at some comparisons. Apple's previous efforts *, Apple's previous big release, Argylle, opened with just $17.4 million, so F1 is a significant improvement. However, it's worth noting that Argylle faced controversy over its budget, which adds a layer of complexity to the comparison. Other high-budget films * among the roughly 108 films with a budget similar to F1, at least 69, and possibly as many as 76, had a better opening weekend. This includes some notable successes like Superman Returns, which managed to cross the $200 million mark domestically despite a lower opening. #, A closer look at the competition. To truly understand F1's performance, we need to look at how it stacks up against other racing films. Here's a breakdown of some key contenders. Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby *, with a $47 million opening, this Will Ferrell comedy still holds the title for the best opening for a live-action racing film. However, F1 has now claimed the top spot for a live-action racing film centered around Formula One. The Fast and the Furious *, the franchise that started it all, The Fast and the Furious opened with $40 million, followed by Ford v Ferrari with $31.4 million, and The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift with $23.9 million. Days of Thunder * Tom Cruise's classic racing film opened with $15.4 million, which, adjusted for inflation, would be equivalent to about $37.8 million today. Cannonball Run * This cult classic would be equal to a $41 million opening in today's dollars, making it a strong contender in the inflation-adjusted race. ### The road ahead. So what does the future hold for F1? The film is banking heavily on the international appeal of Formula One and the star power of Brad Pitt. To break even, it will need to gross at least $500 million globally, a feat that has been achieved by only a handful of films with similarly high budgets. Brad Pitt's track record with international blockbusters is mixed, with only Troy and World War Z surpassing the $300 million mark. Given these challenges, F1 will need to maintain strong international sales to avoid becoming a financial disappointment. ### Tales of the Top 10, a mixed bag of performances. How to Train Your Dragon * This dragon-themed adventure continues to soar, adding another $19.4 million to its total, bringing it to $200 million in just 17 days. With a strong international presence, it's on track to reach $250 to $260 million domestically. Elio * Pixar's latest offering is struggling, with a second weekend gross of $10.7 million, putting it at $42.2 million after 10 days. This is a far cry from Pixar's usual dominance, and the film faces an uphill battle to reach $100 million. M3G and 2.0 * The sequel to the surprise hit M3G and opened with a disappointing $10.2 million, a significant drop from the original's $30.4 million. With a budget of $15 to $25 million, the film will struggle to turn a profit. 28 years later * This zombie thriller saw a 67.7% drop in its second weekend, earning $9.7 million. Despite this, it's on track to reach $150 million globally, which could be a modest success given its $60 million budget. Lilo & Stitch * Disney's beloved classic is nearing the $400 million mark, with a current total of $400 million after 38 days. Globally, it has grossed $946 million, putting it on track to become the biggest U.S. release of 2025. Mission: Impossible, The Final Reckoning * Tom Cruise's final mission continues to perform well, with a current global total of $562 million. It's on track to reach $600 million, solidifying its place as one of the franchise's top earners. ### Beyond the Top 10, Indie Films Shine. Sorry, Baby * A24's indie gem Sorry, Baby made a strong debut with a $21,500 per theater average, the 10th best of the year. The film will expand in the coming weeks, with high hopes for continued success. The Life of Chuck * Neon's release of The Life of Chuck, which won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto Film Festival, has grossed $5.6 million to date, a solid showing for an indie film. ### On the Vine. Upcoming releases to watch. Jurassic World Rebirth * The next installment in the Jurassic franchise hits theaters on Wednesday, aiming to capitalize on the July 4th holiday. With the franchise set to cross the $7 billion mark, expectations are high. This is Spinal Tap * Rob Reiner's classic mockumentary returns to theaters in a remastered 4K version, offering fans a chance to relive the magic before the sequel arrives in September. ### Full list of box office results, June 27 to 29, 2025. 1. F1, the movie, $55.6 million, $55.6 million total. 2. How to Train Your Dragon, $19.4 million, $200.0 million total. 3. Elio, $10.7 million, $42.2 million total. 4. M3G and 2.0, $10.2 million, $10.2 million total. 5. 28 years later, $9.7 million, $50.4 million total. 6. Lilo and Stitch, $6.9 million, $400.0 million total. 7. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, $4.1 million, $185.9 million total. 8. Materialists, $2.9 million, $30.4 million total. 9. Ballerina, $2.1 million, $55.4 million total. 10. Karate Kid Legends, $1.0 million, $51.5 million total. And this is the part most people miss. The box office is just one measure of a film's success. Critical reception, word of mouth, and streaming performance can all play a role in a film's long-term impact. What do you think about the performances of these films? Are you excited for any upcoming releases? Share your thoughts in the comments.